everyone, and thank you for joining us at CGLCC's 2021 Digital LGBT+ Global Business Summit, New World. My name is Dana Brown. I'm the Dean of Carleton University's Sprott School of Business, a proud partner of the CGLCC and a sponsor of the summit. Events of the past year have led to immense change in the way we work and we live, as well as the way we think about our collective future. All around the world, and no matter who we are or where we have come from, we have shared an experience that has shown us, if nothing else, just how interdependent we are on one another and on our planet. As a result, social justice, sustainability, and social impact are now household words, and they are at the top of political and organizational agendas as we chart our future. Universities like Carleton are also deeply connected with our communities, and we seek through all of our work to improve lives through education, outreach, and shared knowledge. At Carleton University's Sprott School of Business, we strive to empower individuals and organizations to be drivers of positive change, to harness the potential of businesses to improve lives worldwide. Sprott researchers are contributing to a body of knowledge that is advancing responsible leadership practices, innovation, sustainability, equality, and inclusion. Our academic programs emphasize community-engaged, collaborative learning opportunities that expose our students to diverse perspectives and experiences. We see great examples of our partnership to impact right here in our work with CGLCC and with Lightspeed, who have jointly supported new research on the impact of COVID-19 on LGBTQ 2S+ businesses and the opportunities to invest in the future. This kind of visionary leadership has the potential to make a difference for many individuals and businesses who thrive in inclusive and supportive communities. I'm therefore delighted to introduce the final session of the day, a fireside chat with Dax Dasilva, the founder and CEO of Lightspeed.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Dale McDermott. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at CGLCC, and welcome to this fireside chat with Dax Dasilva, sponsored by Carleton University. Throughout this conversation, I would like to encourage you to be an active participant and to ask questions in the question and chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and I will do my best to ask them throughout our conversation. And I'm really delighted to have with me our guest, Dax Dasilva, who is the CEO and founder of Lightspeed. Before we say hi to Dax, let me give you a brief bit about his bio. Dax Dasilva is the creative mind behind Lightspeed, Never Apart, and Age of Union. Founded in 2005, Lightspeed develops a cloud commerce platform used by complex retail and hospitality industry customers in over 100 countries. The company's mission is to bring cities and communities to life by powering independent business. Lightspeed employs over 1,000 staff and powers over 100,000 customer locations worldwide. The company went public in March 2019 on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol LSPD, becoming one of Canada's top 10 technology IPOs. In September 2020, the company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. In 2015, Dax also founded Never Apart, a cultural nonprofit determined to bring about positive social change and unity through original programming with global reach and impact. Housing Lightspeed's former offices, Never Apart cultivates a diverse following and has welcomed thousands into its 12,000 square foot space. Dax, you are very welcome to this conversation.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So Dax, I think let's get right into it. I listed off a bit about your bio there, and you're not only a CEO, but you're also an author, and you're the author of Age of Union, Igniting the Changemaker, which is a terrific read. And one of the things that really stands out in this is the importance of spaces to you. And by that I mean, places where you feel comfortable and accepted. In the book, you talk about the importance of GLC, the Gay and Lesbian Community Centre in Vancouver, in your formative years, and later, with your move to Montreal and the Village.
Yes.
So my question to you, Dax, is how important have spaces been in shaping who you are?
I think Lightspeed does focus on spaces. It's about gathering in hospitality spaces, retail spaces. That's what we do as a business. But you're right. In my formative years, spaces like the GLC in Vancouver and like the gay villages in Vancouver and Montreal, they're places where I found myself and discovered all of who I am. So I think that those spaces are so important. Safe spaces, places where you can't replicate digitally. You can't replicate over Zoom the kind of people that come into your life and the kind of interactions that you have in such spaces. And so I'm a big believer in gathering. And I think that those spaces they must be treasured. And I think that because of this period that we've just had, I think that they will be treasured more than ever. Hopefully, when we're able to gather again in those kinds of places.
I know certainly our viewers would love nothing more than to be gathering in a conference room in some location in Canada, but for now, virtual must do. And building on that, I'm wondering, Dax, if you can tell me, what personal experience would you say made you, the entrepreneur, the CEO, and the philanthropist that you are today? Is there anything that comes to mind or sticks out?
Yeah, I mean, my journey started, as a teen. My father used to bring home a Mac, and I was just, obsessed with the intersection of design and technology. Really geeked out as a teen, and sort of became an interface designer that really learned how to program in order to have all these designs come to life, and worked with lots of retail and business customers, and sort of built up a business, on my own in my teens and 20s. I started to build very similar products for different kinds of customers, different kinds of contracts, and realized that there was a product there that was missing in the Mac ecosystem. And that's how Lightspeed came about. And it was because I was laid off from one job where I was building software, and out of that came the opportunity to realize that it was now or never. Become an entrepreneur, build a product, and something I'd always dreamed of is having my own company. And so did that at the age of 28. And really, my only goal was to win an Apple Design Award. To build software and win an award from Steve Jobs, and actually never actually happened that way. But in the course of building Lightspeed, it ended up being this large company.
Look how it turned out. I think it's a good result.
Yeah. So now we're, it's crazy to think that we started in the Montreal Gay Village. I rented the apartment below my, these 3-story walk-ups you have in Montreal, rented the apartment right below mine to be the office. We programmed till 4 a.m. for, it was the first 2 years straight, building that original Lightspeed product, and would go down the back stairs. And this all happened in the Village, just another part of how Lightspeed really grew up in right inside the community.
So work and home, really blended well together. And I think lots of people over the course of the last 16 months with the pandemic, I think know exactly what you're talking about. And then just a follow-up question there, Dax. So did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think, I in my teens and 20s, I'd really had done a lot of, work as a consultant and, one-man show. And I really didn't, and of course I always wanted to have my own software company because I admired and looked up to lots of software companies, being this Mac developer. But the first couple of years of programming at Lightspeed, I didn't really see myself as the leader of the company. As the CEO, I was really the main developer, and there was people working in the office doing sales. I was of course involved with that, but I think it wasn't until we got a bit bigger that I actually really started to realize I have I have to think of myself and project, start to project myself as the leader here. There's a leadership pillar in Age of Union where I talk about that sort of that there are different conceptions around leadership, and as LGBTQ, sometimes it's the diversity and the kinds of voices that we have in our community. Sometimes it's not sometimes we can have a leadership style that's not the loudest voice, and I think that there can be lots of richness in the kinds of leadership that we can bring to the table. And so didn't think of myself as a leader, but certainly now we're more than 2,000 people, and it's definitely evolves year upon year of what is expected from me as a leader. I think that's one of the things that I learned in those early days, and through every stage of our 16-year journey, is that every year you're putting yourself outside of your comfort zone as a leader. You're stepping into something that actually you don't know anything about how to do necessarily, and that's really often what the company needs from you most. And so for those people that are starting something, don't be concerned about being uncomfortable, because it's probably where you need to be.
And certainly, I think given the rapid growth which Lightspeed has experienced over the like most recent years, and even this week, we've seen two further acquisitions to the Lightspeed family. So with that, that must be a constant challenge to leadership, a constant challenge to grow. And I think one of the other points then is, you've managed to build a really successful company, but a really successful, inclusive company. And I think, I'm hoping to turn our conversation now to some advice on how to build the inclusive companies. And, my first question is, on the importance of representation, how much of an impact do you think the fact that, you are its founder, you are its CEO, has had on the culture at Lightspeed?
Certainly you lead by example, and people look to you as the leader for the model by which by which they interact with one another, behave, how people are, how we decide to elevate voices and perspectives within the company, how we create seats at the table, so all of that, people do look to you for that guide. And for that guidance. And so I think that there's a big responsibility from the leader. Company culture comes from the top. It's not an HR function. It's your responsibility as a leader. And so there are things that we just did it. We did our first diversity survey. Just shortly after we went public on the TSX. And we started to, really formalize our diversity policies, because everything's been so organic in terms of our ethos around diversity, equity, and inclusion. The first 4 people at the company were all LGBTQ, all people that I knew. And so every new person we added to the company believed in the same values of that our differences are a strength, and that everybody, difference can be a teacher, and that was going to be something that we celebrated at the company. But then you fast forward to 2019, and we do our first diversity survey, and I was really surprised to learn 17% of the company, we just redid this survey recently, is LGBTQ. Wow. And 2% identifies as non-binary. So it's the statistics on people feeling comfortable about talking about their cultural background or their or other elements of their identity, is in the high 90s or high 80s and 90s, and people feel like they can bring their authentic self to work. So I think it does, maybe having an LGBTQ leader probably does attract more people that they feel that they can reach their full career potential at the company. But we also, I think a true leader does create leaders. So we have to, it's not all up to me. There have to be leaders within Lightspeed in every country, and leaders that we bring in through acquisitions that believe that too, and that that build leaders under them that carry this through. And I think that the companies at the size where there are many times where we don't live up to our own ideals, in terms of everything that we could be doing for DEI. And so, we're formalizing programs, and we want to be a real leader, because I think that there's an opportunity for us to be an example, because we do have some historical and built-in sort of heritage here with diversity. And so, yeah, I think that's the step that we're on, that first step of doing the survey, and now, having more formal programs that includes a DEI leader and a DEI committee, and now, starting to put together real programs in addition to all the communications that I do around it inside the company.
It's great to hear. I want to take this opportunity again just to remind those who are viewing this session to please, on the right-hand side of your screen, if you do have a question for Dax, please, I would encourage you to be an active participant and to ask your question. Dax, your comment there around, culture comes from the top, I think it's absolutely spot on. And the fact that, 17%, as you mentioned there, of Lightspeed staff identify as being, members of the community, I think is fascinating. Our research certainly has told us that, businesses that have LGBT plus people in leadership or in ownership roles, they tend to hire way more diverse employees than other mainstream counterparts. And so my next question then is kind of honing in on the M&A side of things, because Lightspeed has grown significantly over the last number of years, and with a new company comes a new culture, bring it into the Lightspeed fold. So wondering if you can maybe elaborate a bit on any of the challenges that you might have experienced on the M&A side of things.
We're obviously in tech. There can be companies that join that are not diverse, and didn't have the same kind of history that we have. But I think that what's really amazing, the journey that we're doing, we've done 14 acquisitions, is that people, no matter what country and no matter the history of the company that we're acquiring, people do believe in the value of prioritizing diversity initiatives and inclusion initiatives. I think that we are a more innovative company when there's more perspectives, and there's more seats created at the table. It does take effort, and it does take strategy and thought and prioritization. But yeah, no, it's certainly a lot of different cultures within one culture. What we have done at the company, and it's funny because I just did 2 presentations, and I'm going to do another one tomorrow because we did these 2 acquisitions yesterday. And there's teams in places from these acquisitions as diverse as California and Russia. And so speaking about I remember, when we did acquisitions in places like Amsterdam and Belgium, there's the way that people communicate, the way that people reach consensus are very different. And I think that what has happened over time is that I think that it's improved the company. It's improved the way that we are clear about decisions. It's about the way that we make sure that voices are heard, because because we're not all from Montreal that all think alike and communicate the same way. I think it's enriched the company. Have there been communication barriers at points? Have there been cultural miscommunications or clashes? Certainly there have been. But I think that the end goal is having a richer culture. And what I was saying is that what I've been explaining in these sessions is we decided actually last year to come up with 6 guiding principles that are core values on how we behave and how we treat one another, and the things that we're reminded of as we interact as a company with one another, with our customers, with externally, and those are things that I think that are guiding principles of being a Lightspeeder, and I think those are pretty universal, and we and that's like a starting point. And then all the cultural richness that comes from all these different offices. I mean, there can be cultural differences between departments, so
sure, that's right, absolutely.
It's very, very different types of people, right? And so that's I think what's fun about the company, is that there is so much difference, that it's continually enriching the company.
Finance and HR might, clash heads every now and again. Absolutely. One of the interesting things about Lightspeed is that, it's unique because it was founded with D&I culture, at the core of what you do. I think lots of companies, when they're founded, D&I happens later on in the journey, but Lightspeed has the unique perspective of having it from the start. So, I'm wondering if you can describe Lightspeed's D&I culture, when you started versus today, because you've gone on that journey, and do you believe the company's many successes are linked to it? And perhaps what indicate for companies who are watching our conversation today, are there any indicators that you think companies should keep an eye on who are looking to advance diversity and inclusion within their organizations?
Yeah, I mean, the first 7 years of Lightspeed was all, we were a bootstrapped company. We built, it was, the first 7 years of bootstrap. The second was venture capital, and then 2 years public. So I think it was that first 7 years where we really were able to bake in our DNA and really, have an identity. And I think that, how we hired, how we added people to the team, I think, really impacted, what we did later with how we integrated companies into Lightspeed. I think we had a strong core of identity. But yeah, I don't think that diversity was managed, in any sort of formal sense in that early period. It's now where we want those core values, which we feel are such a core strength, and it's such a core differentiator for the company, because I feel like working for the company is a differentiated experience because of that history and because of those values. But how do we make sure that it scales? How do we make sure that it's felt by by more than 2,000 people that are in very different countries, and that have come from different perspectives and come from different, potentially from other companies. And so that, I think, is the path that we're on. I think it starts with assessing where you are, and I think that's what the surveying internally has done. Usually these are anonymous surveys that allow you to get a sense of how comfortable people are sharing their identity with you. One of the things that we're discovering is that as we do multiples of these surveys, more and more people are feeling comfortable about talking about, just something I've noticed in some of the surveys that we did last year versus this year's, the amount of people that are comfortable about disclosing that they have a disability.
Yeah, trust must be a big factor in this entire process, I'd imagine, right?
The key word here is the trust. And so I think that if the company feels that, if people feel like the company has prioritized this and that is a safe space, that they're more willing to, first of all, they're willing to bring their authentic self to work, and that's what if you want somebody genuinely to do the best work of their career at your company, then you've got to create an environment where they can bring their authentic self to work. And then I think the next step of that is that as them feeling comfortable with sharing something like that with you in a survey. And I think that those are helpful for one to start to build, to build a committee within the company to build, to have leadership that's looking at DEI, has to be very well connected to not just HR but also to the leader. Actually, we just hired Seema Baktula, who's our director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Lightspeed, and actually synced with her today on some of the initiatives, and it's amazing what people around the company want to do. We had a flood of people from all around the world wanting to be a part of the committee, and so just selecting those folks and allowing them to represent different parts of the world and different parts of our culture. I think it's energizing. It's energizing for me, because I don't want to lose that magic from the company, no matter how big we get. It's got to be part of Lightspeed when we're 10,000 people. And we are growing a lot through organic headcount growth, but also through acquisition. So how do we make sure that remains a light within the company? And so that formalization process is something that probably many companies that didn't have the same history as us are looking into or doing. But yeah, it's worthwhile, because I think it really does. It is a motivator for people. I think it gives people a lot of a great sense of the values of the company, and makes people excited to be a part of something.
And you touched on a very interesting point there, I think, which I'd like to go into a bit more. Which is around partnering. Certainly CGLCC is we're very proud to have Lightspeed as one of our corporate members. But Lightspeed has a lot of other great partnerships as well. Black professionals in tech, Black Girls Code. I think certainly my perspective is partnering with communities is one of the strongest way that you can say you mean business in this issue.
100%. I think no one can do it alone. I think partnerships and things that are the support that you can give to groups in the community. I think it's invaluable, especially as a corporate partner. It emboldens groups. It gives them the resources that's maybe work that you can't do on your own as a corporation either. So those are really, really important, and it's important to stay engaged and consistent. And also, I think one of the things that I've done I do a weekly communication now because of COVID, and a town hall every month, and I try to give the team updates on some of these partnerships, so that people can get involved, and that there's a real sense of continuity in the things that we're doing. And I think it doubles down on the sense of purpose that people feel in their workplace.
One of the big pieces of DEI, and certainly one of the conversations, that has really, I think, come to light over the pandemic, has been the issue of racism. So my question to you, Dax, is addressing and naming systemic racism mandatory to include more diversity, and why or why not?
I think it's really important to speak up. Silence is definitely complacency, and it's an acceptance of the status quo. So, as a leader, it's always I think it's your responsibility to speak up and to identify problems that you see, whether it's in your organization, and to lead by example. I think that there's bias that exists in the world. There's a bias that exists in every organization. It's something that we're always going to have to, confront. We do come from different backgrounds. We come from different perspectives, and I think that acknowledging, recognizing it, and then that understanding, that recognition, that's like the first step towards being able to make progress. There's racism and there's bias within our own LGBTQ community, and we are we are a marginalized group, and it exists within our community, right? And so it's something that we're not going to be able to make progress on if it's not acknowledged and faced. And so I think that's it can start with leaders, and then much more can happen from there. Throughout your teams, and it's good to acknowledge and celebrate the people that are doing the work also within your organization. I think that there is a lot of there's a lot you can unlock within your organization if you look for it and you create a safe space for it.
Absolutely. We have many people in the audience who, they look up to you as an out, gay CEO of a major publicly traded company. That's not a sentence which, I can say too much about lots of people, so you are unique in that regard. And for many people, and for many of the perhaps younger entrepreneurs or fresh entrepreneurs starting out, that remains a dream for them. So I'm curious to know, maybe if you can reflect on this, did you ever think being gay would prevent you from becoming, the CEO and leader that you are today? And what advice would you have for people who are looking to overcome discriminatory practices in all forms?
I don't think I had that particular thought because I was, I'm the founder, right? So if you don't like the rules of the game, you just start your own vision, right? And I think that is what Lightspeed is it's I think when you do start a company, it becomes all of the best of you, and then often you can see some of your negative traits reflected in the company too. It can be a true representation of you, and that's actually why creating diversity in the company is a healthy thing for the company, because there are many people that are better than you at many things, and so that's a journey. Have I experienced, bias against me in the journey of Lightspeed? I think so, but I don't know that it's something that was super obvious. I think that there's many times where I think that we've been ultra blessed. I think that we've had tons of investment, tons of support from different organizations in Quebec. I think that there's, as we had interactions in the VC world in the US, I think that in some of the earlier days, it wasn't something that you would go on and on about, your identity as much as you might be comfortable about it today. But I think that we're lucky to be in Canada, where and particularly in where Lightspeed was started in Montreal. This is a very supportive place where I think where LGBTQ business owners have, I think, a pretty fair shake at getting grants, at getting and we benefited from a lot of that in the early days. As somebody who was just recently laid off and was starting a new business, benefited from that, and can only be grateful. But I think that's that experience. I've heard many people that have experiences that are not the same. That do experience bias in their journeys, either because of race or because of their identity, and that's something that we have to be conscious of, is that we need to be clear about the business environment that we want to foster, for all of the members of our community.
Dax, one of the questions which have just come in here from the audience ties in very well to what we've just been speaking about, and it reads: aside from being located there, what can businesses do to protect LGBTQ2 plus places such as the Village?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that the Village is a really interesting. It's an interesting topic that I've been discussing with friends, and these are areas, these are places that were so important to me, as I came out. Today, LGBTQ people live all over the city. Typically, I look at Montreal, and the community is dispersed all through the city. When I moved there 20 years ago, most LGBTQ people lived, near the village, as did I. And today it's a lot different in terms of how people meet each other, in terms of apps and so on. You don't need to be located in the village. However, those spaces are so important for people that are coming out. They're, when you visit a city, it's where do you try to gravitate to as an LGBTQ person? You visit the village to experience local gay culture, and so I think that like everywhere post-COVID, the places that we support are the places that are gonna survive, and I think that we have to speak with our dollars and speak with our feet. And support the reinvention. I think that there is going to be a reinvention of our villages with fresh ideas, fresh concepts, because we're seeing that in general in business. Lightspeed's powering these physical businesses that are employing digital strategies like digital ordering or digital discovery. And I think that many gay villages were formed at a time that's pre-exists all of this. So there is a big opportunity in the reopening of the global economies for reinvention. And I think that that there's hopefully a big beneficiary of that kind of thinking will be our villages.
And you might, so you might say that there is a pink renaissance on the way.
I really hope so, and and I think we're studying it. We're looking, we're doing some surveying. I've been talking to a lot of LGBTQ entrepreneurs and business people to start to understand what that's going to look like and what that's going to feel like. And because we do retail and restaurant software at Lightspeed, we're keenly interested in the reinvention of just our cities and our communities in general. And I think that we have this opportunity where people do want to shop local, they do want to eat local, they do want to support local. They realize that we could lose it. If everybody's on Amazon and getting delivery, we could lose the things that we thought and took for granted as going to be there forever. And we've seen the erosion of gay villages and the gentrification of villages, and so we've got to speak with our pink dollars and make sure that we support these places, outside of pride, and that we reclaim them, and make sure that there are places that are vibrant. Because I think that for the next generation, and even for pride in our own cities, they're important.
Absolutely. Pride 365. Just another question I want to take quickly from the audience. What is your best tip for negotiation?
Best tip for negotiation. I think my best tip is to find the best negotiator on the team to take it on.
Delegate. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. So, I know we're coming up on time here, Dax, and I know you are tight on time. So, my next question is, what is next for Lightspeed? I know we referenced at the start of our conversation that you've been busy acquiring some companies, and I know you had a busy Monday with the announcement of two big acquisitions yesterday. So, what's next for Lightspeed, and what is next for Dax Dasilva?
Yeah, so for Lightspeed, we've been talking a lot, since earnings and with these two acquisitions about us being a one-stop commerce platform where everything from the supplier, to the merchant, all the way to the consumer experience, that we're going to serve up all of that. And the acquisition of Equid, which is all sorts of e-com and online experiences, all the way to our acquisition of New Order, which is all the store to supplier relationships. So we really illustrated the breadth of what we're trying to do. We're trying to do that for the retail ecosystem and for the hospitality ecosystem. So there's tons of we really have outlined that with the scale that we've built in terms of the amount of stores that we have and restaurants that we have on the platform, and now we're building out all that capability. So lots of fun ahead. For myself, really focusing on building out Lightspeed, Never Apart, which is my cultural center in the Milex. The plan is to have multiple Never Aparts around the world. So, I think there's an opportunity, to look at real estate in different places. So, once I can start to get on a plane and do that, I think that after 6 years of having Never Apart, we really have a template that we can replicate in other places and have exchange of art and culture, between cities. So that's a big ambition. And then finally, Age of Union, my book, which came out 2 years ago, is going to become an environmental alliance, and we're investing in projects all around the world that for environmental conservation. So that's taking up a lot of my time, and I'm headed into the Amazon for one of those projects soon, and then another project's on the St. Lawrence River. So two amazing rivers that we're doing some environmental conservation work on. So lots going on.
You're busy.
But that's exciting. Good time.
That's fantastic. Well, just before we close the session, just very quickly, Dax, I know we're at time, but what is your top tip for anyone in the audience who's looking to start or grow their own business?
Yeah, I think that one of the pieces of advice that I got, well, first of all, you got to be really determined, and it's a different mindset. I think that you have to be ready to be ready to iterate and fail fast and fail often, and actually just double down on the things that are really working and celebrate the wins. 10 bad things will happen and 2 good things will happen, and you got to build on those things. I think that one of the really important things that we did at the very beginning of Lightspeed was, in order to get those initial grants, I had to write a business plan, and that's what I always tell an entrepreneur is. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to look at this thing again. It's a checkbox item. I didn't study finance, so. But writing everything down and putting it on paper and doing a 3-year projection and doing a 3-year strategy really makes you sort what you're going to do from what you're not going to do, and crystallizes everything. And actually, those projections, which just seemed, projections with all the costs and so on that would happen over 3 years, we actually hit year 2 exactly on the head in terms of that business plan. And in year 3, we exceeded. And I can still look back on that business plan and say, this is consistent with what we're doing today. Of course, the world's changed, but we're still offering the same value. So I think that's really worth doing. It's an exercise that I was very skeptical of, and I'm a big believer in. Anytime I mentor somebody, I say, you know what, you've got a lot of ideas right now, write that plan.
That's great. Write that plan. I think that is a great way to finish our conversation. Dax, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sharing your insights and your expertise. And thank you to everyone for joining us here today. And also thank you, of course, to our session sponsor, Carleton University. That is it for today. A reminder that the next session is tomorrow. That is LGBT+ Out Leadership with Tony Abrams, founder and CEO of AI Media, our translation partners. That is at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can access that and check out all of the sessions on the left-hand side of your screen. So Dax, on behalf of everyone here at CGLCC and New World, thank you very much for joining, and take care.
Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Happy Pride.